Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to LA Noire. Oh, I'm starting right in with the exciting music. As we watch a man perform maintenance on the outside of a house. Riveting.
Okay, everyone, keep it down. Cole Phelps joins the arson squad today.
How'd you like porking that German whore, Phelps?
Phelps is up before a review board in December. Until then, he works the arson desk. End of story. Phelps.
Yes, sir.
I don't care what you did or didn't do, Phelps. I hear you're a good case man. But if you fuck up on my detail, I'll have you out of here before your feet touch the ground. Do we have an understanding?
Yes, sir. Cap, we don't want a fucking rat like Phelps.
Can it, Tilden? Phelps, I'm partnering you with Herschel Biggs.
I don't do partners. You know that, Cap.
You do now, Biggs. Social basket cases like you two should get along just fine. Biggs will show you the ropes, Phelps.
This is arson. There are no ropes.
It shouldn't take long, then. Start with these two. House fires. 326 South Kenmore Avenue. Steffen's family was out of town when it happened. Then go to 4414 Rosewood, family by the name of Sawyer. Fire brigade will be on location.
Are they suspicious, Captain?
That's for you to find out, Detective. Now get out of here. Both of you. Get out!
They weren't even his prints, and he still confessed.
He's got a point with that. Are they suspicious? Go figure it out. That's your job. Alright. Last time we're picking a new outfit. And, you know, Phelps got demoted? I figure he'll get demoted down to a vest, too. Yep, gun is totally visible now, too.
I got this gadget whiz putting recording devices into the place for me.
See him? Saw his picture in the paper.
Apparently we're going to be quiet on our way out here.
Like the Dahlia.
Might as well go a little bit faster.
I mean, you know you've made it if you got that desk.
Man, 3 different stations and they all say the same stuff. Oh, lovely. That must be Biggs's car. I guess I can drive. Where to? Well, Steffen's is first on the list, so why not?
How long have you been working arson?
We gonna do the small talk thing now? Talk baseball, exchange addresses? I don't think so. Feeling down, hotshot? Need a buddy? I'll look somewhere else.
So this is how it's going to be, partner?
I already told you, I don't do partners. I seen you on your first day, hero. Walking into the station, chest puffed out like a little kid at his confirmation. You wouldn't have given me the time of day. And now you need somebody, and that somebody's supposed to be me. Well, it's not gonna happen.
That's quite a speech. I heard you were the strong silent type.
You cracking wise, Phelps?
No, Biggs. I'm breaking the ice.
Just drive, hotshot.
Wow, Biggs is apparently the most noir character we've met. Suppose that's fitting, seeing as he's also the narrator from the first desk. Patrol desk. That fire did a number. When did the fire truck get here?
There isn't much left.
There never is if the job's done properly.
You think it was deliberate?
Nah, that's real pain in her face. They would have moved out the things they care about if this was insurance. There's no mileage in this. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Hirsch. Cap this one.
Yeah, Mike Brannigan, Cole Phelps. It's okay, Brannigan. His name may be dog shit, but there's none on his hand.
No offense, Phelps.
None taken. Do you have anything?
The fire started late last night. Steffen's family at Catalina Island. Won some kind of competition. Looks like the only thing they ever won in their lives. Let me come home to this.
I'd say they were pretty lucky, really.
They don't have any insurance. Everything they own, including the house, is now that pile of rubble.
Where are they sleeping?
In the car. It's lucky the whole block didn't burn down. Word is they're bulldozing this whole neighborhood to build new homes for GIs. That's the man in the house. In the ruins. Terry lady is his wife.
We'll take a look around. Come on, Phelps.
Looks like the block's already moved out. Just look at the houses in the background. All of the windows are boarded up. That's a nice touch. Puddles of water everywhere from the fire hoses. Oh, hello there.
Recently serviced. Could be something to go on.
Several. Oh, no, wait, that one was last year. Pretty on the dot each year, though. But yeah, that's the only bit of evidence here. But I feel like walking through the ruins, you know, they put in a lot of effort here. The half-belted pan, that's a nice touch. The burned wood textures, all the ash everywhere. They definitely did some research for this.
I don't think so.
Oh, what was that? Ah, just a shoe. I mean, interesting that it got through in one piece, but whatever. I just gotta wonder how much of this furniture came from the top floor.
Mr. Steffens? Cole Phelps and Herschel Biggs, LAPD. I know it's a difficult time, but could we have a word?
Don Steffens.
You were out of town.
We won a prize. We had a wonderful time. Came home to this.
Do you still have the tickets?
Sure.
It's a formality, but we'll need to speak to the issuing agent.
Why is he wearing suspenders and a belt?
Can you tell me any more about the prize that you won, Mr. Steffens?
Weekend at Catalina Island. My wife got this flyer in the mail from the Suburban Redevelopment Fund.
You sure things didn't get a little too tough and you burnt down the house yourself?
I should punch you on the goddamn nose. You want to prove that I burnt my own house? You son of a bitch.
Way to be direct, Cole.
Sorry. Sometimes you have to shake the tree to see what falls out. Did you enter any kind of competition?
My wife filled in a flyer. The lady just rung up and told us we won. It's the first time I ever won anything.
The redevelopment fund. Did they offer to buy you out?
They're building new houses. They showed their money and most of the neighborhood just packed up and walked away. But I never bargained with them.
Everyone else is selling, but you're the holdout, aren't you?
I was the last. I thought I could hold out for a better price. My house is the center lot.
So now you have to take the price regardless.
Looks like it. I've got no choice. I have to put a roof over my family.
That's all we need for the moment, Mr. Steffens.
All right.
What's with him?
You've seen the papers. I guess he's thinking about his own family. I'd say he's searching for some kind of atonement right now.
That's weird. Getting out of Cole's perspective like that.
Any ideas?
All right. Make the call and see if these suburban assholes have an address.
Yeah, actually, I can do that. There's a game well just down the road here.
Bitch looks a lot like the cop who pointed the gun at me.
It's just down here at the corner. Looks like they already torn down one of the buildings here, too.
It's about time some of those movie people went to jail. They think they're untouchable.
Cole Phelps, badge 1247.
How could I help, Detective?
I need information on the Suburban Redevelopment Fund.
Yes, Detective. Just checking. The fund is a semi-government agency established to speed up the building of GI homes. It has private investors as well as a government endowment.
Huh. Do you have an address for them?
There is one listed here, corner of Beverly and Mariposa.
Thanks.
Did he somehow hear her? Is that why he walked away at that particular moment? But yeah, this looks demolished. No furniture remaining, so they must have moved out first. Oh, they cut down the trees, too. Yeah, I gotta say, they put a lot of effort into this particular block. It's a interesting way to spend your effort, but yeah, I'm not complaining. Anyway, let's not go to the next house fire just yet.
Where they see 49 war hero homing pigeons, which symbolize the 40...
Well, speaking of putting in a lot of effort, that is one hell of a window display. I suppose air travel was new back in the day. They really wanted to advertise it.
Detectives Phelps and Biggs, LAPD.
John Cunningham. Can I help you, gentlemen?
What can you tell us about the travel tickets that you issued to the Steffens family?
Steffens. Let me see. Family of 5, I think. Trip by flying boat to Catalina Island. Tickets were issued last week and redeemed this weekend.
Here they are. Steffens.
There's another familiar name.
The Sawyer family. Rosewood Avenue.
But they canceled.
Tell us about the Suburban Redevelopment Fund.
There's not much to tell. They run a promotion. Our promotions mailing list covers half of LA.
How much business do you do with Suburban? You get some kind of kickback from these guys.
Oh, so now you're accusing me of taking kickbacks from realty developers. You have some way of proving this, Detective?
It's kind of off topic.
Looks like I made a mistake. So they are not a government agency?
I don't believe so. Government organizations don't usually get involved in promotions.
I'm told the tickets were a prize.
Yes, they were.
You do a lot of these prizes.
Look, there are hundreds of these promotions running at any one time. If you're the lucky guy, you get your name pulled out of a hat.
What are you hiding?
While the Steffens family was at Catalina Island, their house burnt down. You consider them lucky?
Christ. I'm sorry to hear that.
Can you tell me who offered the prize they won?
Sure. Look, there's supposed to be some sort of supervised draw with hundreds of tickets. But the reality is the Suburban Redevelopment Fund calls me every couple of weeks and tells me exactly who's won.
Thanks for your help.
No problem. Just wish I could do something for that family.
You could put round the hat. A few bucks would really help them now.
I suppose so.
Good. I'll put you down for 50. I could tell you were Samaritan the minute I walked in the door.
50? Are you?
Good man, Cunningham. You're all right.
Yeah, I'm great. Poorer, but great.
Apparently, money was worth about 10 times what it is today. So that's around like $500 he was just volunteered for.
Can you drive to this one?
Service announcement.
Have there been any other house fires?
This is arson. We get an average of 2 a night. Does that answer your question?
So why are we doing the 2? The hell are the other detectives up to? Older fires, tracking down insurance stuff. The insurance guys have their own investigators for that.
Hi, Albert. We've caught this case.
Hey, Biggs. You have a partner? What gives?
This is Cole Phelps. You may have read about him.
Oh, now I get it. Hello, Phelps. Welcome to the netherworld of arson. Family of 4 found dead in their beds. Heater explosion.
Another one?
Looks that way. Insta-heat Model 70. Before you get excited, we get a couple of water heaters a month go back. Take a look around the yard and see what you can find.
That's still a lot of water heaters.
Can we move it along, boys? I've got a huge backlog of reports that I need.
Mal. You gonna stick it out, Cole?
I'm gonna try, Mal. What have you got?
Family by the name of Sawyer. Mother, father, and 2 kids. All in bed from the looks of it. I'd say carbon monoxide poisoning. The burns are superficial.
Time of death?
I'd say about midnight. Anything more exact will take some time to determine. Lynch tells me this has something to do with a faulty water heater.
Could be. There's been a spate of problems with a particular brand. I've got another angle in mind.
You care to elucidate, Detective? This is a murder and not an accident. Sharing information has helped us solve quite a few cases together.
I need something concrete, Mal, before the department gets wind of it. I'm in arson for a reason.
I feel sorry for your wife and kids, Phelps, not for you. But you're a good case man. One of the best I've ever met. I'll help in any way I can.
Thanks, Mal. I'd say that's firm but fair.
Mal is good people. You said the house would be empty.
How about the insurance companies write these incidents up as acts of God?
How can I find peace? Oh, Jesus. Look at their car.
How much do you think I know? Lynch and Carruthers will have the juice for you.
There's the epicenter of the explosion. Oh, looks like they had a dog. Hope the dog's okay. Looks like the ashes from the flame didn't hit it. Hit the doghouse, I mean. Hit the hell out of the main house, though. Took out the fence. I'm looking for whatever's making the music go. Figure it would be around here somewhere. Well, it looks like the blast must have knocked the car sideways. But yeah, I did like a couple of loops, and it wasn't until just now I finally found the thing. Said I finally found the thing. There we go. Gotta wonder what this is doing on the other side of the house, though.
Hey, Biggs! Is this significant?
Regulator valve. Good find.
Detectives? This is the next door neighbor. Detective Phelps. Can you help?
They were supposed to be going away. They won a trip somewhere. But little Henry got sick, so they had to cancel. What are the chances?
Do you know who ran the competition?
Gulliver's Travel, up on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Thanks. You've been a big help.
Phelps, the guy across the street. I've seen him before. He likes fire.
Hurry, you can still catch him.
Well, let's just chase this random asshole. You know, return to the scene of the crime and all that good nonsense.
Stop! LAPD! We've got an idea on this line. Stop right there!
What's your name?
Herbert Chapman.
So you like fires?
Some.
Watching them or setting them?
I don't want any trouble.
Turn out your pockets.
You're a naughty boy, aren't you, Herbert?
I keep myself to myself.
Cigarette in a matchbox gives you a 5 or 6 minute delay. You want more time, you use a mosquito coil. Don't you, Herbert?
You like this fire, Herbert?
Hell no. I heard it over the fire radio. Sounded sweet.
When you finish following your leads, come and see me at the fire station. I have a theory about this.
Will do, Lynch. Take this guy in. We might want him for questioning later.
You got it, Detective.
Why have you got such a hard-on for this case? If it is murder, it's almost impossible to prove. Fire doesn't leave much evidence. There's no percentage in this.
I think it's more than one case.
They're house fires, Cole. Accidents, heater fires, gas explosions.
There's got to be a reason.
The reason is you want to be a star again. Forget it. Give it up. You'll feel better.
There's something to this. I know it.
What are you talking about? Arson is insurance. It's always been insurance.
We still investigate the cases, Biggs. The people in this house are dead.
Go soak your head, Phelps. This hero business is a full-time obsession with you.
I'm gonna make this case. I'm gonna rub the department's nose in it. Help me or stay out of my way. You got it?
You know, if this weren't the main plot that we're stumbling into, Biggs would be right.
Let me guess. You want to check out the suburban address?
Great partners must think alike,
I kind of got railroaded into driving this one. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. Oh, but we're already here, so, you know, that's okay. Bunch of new housing over here.
This is supposed to be the registered offices of the Suburban Redevelopment Fund.
This is an Elysian housing development, Mac.
So Elysian is an investor in the redevelopment fund.
Looks that way.
Are we done here, Mac? I've got work to do.
Sure, buddy. Thanks for your help. Elysian are investors in the suburban redevelopment. So what? If you think I'm putting my pension on the line and harassing Leland Monroe without evidence, you're out of your mind.
Leland Monroe, that's the face on all of the billboards we've been seeing. Also, there's something in the office we could look for, but it's not evidence.
Lynch says we should visit him at Fire Station 32.
Who exactly is this guy, Lynch?
Lynch is a legend. You should feel privileged. He doesn't let many people into the inner sanctum. Keep your mouth shut, and you'll learn something about fires.
Hey, I'm not the only guy who can't drive. Oh, Biggs.
We came as soon as we could.
Hey. Fire poles. Nice.
Buddy, you drop something?
Lynch.
Biggs, you two investigating the house fire on Kenmore Avenue as well?
Yep. Why?
I had a look around the place while I was out there.
Do you believe the fire?
I deal in facts, Phelps. Evidence of an explosion. No obvious sign of accelerants. Wiring looks intact. Come and take a look at this.
Is the heater from the Sawyer fire out?
Yes, it is.
Huh. Looks like it was recently serviced.
I have a theory, and it's a theory only. I don't have enough evidence to prove...
Al, if you say it's so, we're listening.
Okay, Phelps. You're a bright penny. You have a gas supply. You have a Bunsen burner as a pilot light. You have a regulator valve and the balloon represents the gas expanding in the room. Now, the gas has to make contact with the mosquito coil to form an explosion. Let's see if you can work out the chain of events.
Well, it's not that hard. He listed them in order. So, yeah, regulator valve.
Good, your regulator's in position.
And last touch.
The gas bubble needs to be next to the coil if it's going to ignite.
Yeah, thanks. I figured that out.
Okay, I'll light your pilot and turn the gas on.
You pull the lever on the left to turn on the gas.
So that's how it's being done.
Maybe. There could be a fault with these valves. I've adjusted this one for our experiment, but you need to take it to InstaHeat and see what they say. Their headquarters is on North Harvard Boulevard, number 262.
Thanks, Albert.
You're welcome, Biggs. See you at the next show.
He, didn't really modify that for the experiment, though. I mean, we didn't use it in the experiment. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure how that worked. Wasn't very clear about it.
You're behind the wheel. Show?
The next fire. We should go to the factory and see how many of these things are going bang in the night.
You know this Chapman character?
Guy's a freak. Loves fires. He's the kind of guy that we'd like for a lot of things, but we don't really have any credible evidence to pursue him with.
Well, it does sound like the Suburban Redevelopment Fund is up to something fishy. So, we should keep that in mind for the rest of the case here.
Goddamn Harry thinks he could get fresh whenever he pleases.
LAPD detectives, ma'am. We need to speak to someone in charge.
I see. Well, duty manager for today is Mr. Rasick. You should find him in his office.
Oh, thanks for the information.
Isn't that the cop that caught the guy that was pretending to be dead?
New and improved model. They'll be selling these like hotcakes.
New feature. Does not explode.
Done by robots.
Obnoxious oaf.
Detective Phelps and Biggs, arson. We're investigating a couple of house fires. What can you tell us about this?
Pressure regulator from a Model 70, yeah. Let me take a look. We have a problem. This has been tampered with.
What?
You see this diaphragm? It forms a seal across the saddle here. Gas flows across from here to here. The diaphragm regulates flow. It's been reversed. It's a subtle change, but it means the gas never closes off properly.
So you're telling me that this is not a manufacturing fault or service repair?
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the design.
Sabotage is that easy, though?
You're telling me that you've never had any problems with this heater?
Look, we've changed the design since the Model 70.
These things are still being installed?
It's the demand. None of us could keep up with the amount of housing going up. At the budget end, we're still using some of the old stock. We are installing 100 heaters a week. They're not all faulty.
They're not all safe, either.
Hope you got good insurance.
Are these diaphragms prone to failure?
They tend to go after a while. The rubber lasts quite a few years and then it perishes.
So the guys' names that I've been seeing doing the repairs on the heaters, they're fully licensed and accredited.
Sure, of course they are.
I think you're lying, Rasick. I think some of your men aren't fully licensed. You're desperate to cover your sales.
And how are you going to prove that, Detective? Name me one of my guys who would have overlooked a fault like this.
Well, I can name you two.
What about Matthew Ryan?
You know about Ryan, huh? All right, he's been in some trouble, I know that. He's done his time.
You in the habit of hiring criminals, Rasik?
I need guys, Detective. This boom is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I want you to get me a copy of the list of your installers.
Okay, I'll get it for you.
Oh, look, here it is. Oh,
There,
what?
around a dozen of them. Housing business is going crazy at the moment.
Fuck you.
This is a long shot. We are not going to roust that whole list.
I want to run it by R&I, cross-reference for arsonists. See if any of these guys have any previous. Sir, I need to use your phone.
Go right ahead.
Jesus, Biggs.
Going straight to hell.
What the hell? And I thought the hat in the last case was funny. Alright, now here's where R&I gets goddamn mystical.
Operator, give me R&I.
Putting you through now.
Phelps, badge 1247.
How could I help, Detective?
You look at
I
this
need to know
clown.
if any of the following names have a previous criminal history.
Okay, Detective, run the names.
Acevedo Ernesto, Clemens Walter, Elgram John, Gable Leroy, Kelligrew Peter, Cutner Robert, Limehouse Albert, Manning Franklin, Neves Raymond, O'Brien Thomas, Ryan Matthew, Spurgeon William, Varley Reginald, Zurich Stephen.
Clemens Walter, previous conviction for arson and malicious damage. Burned down a house in Westwood in 1942. 4-year jail term.
Thanks.
Ryan Matthew, charged for contempt of court, attempted murder, plea bargain down to assault charge.
Anyone else?
There is a Reginald Varley wanted for murder by Detroit Police Department.
Thanks. You've been a big help, young lady.
Young?
Your employment roster is quite the rogues gallery, Mr. Rasik. Desperate times indeed. Do you have an address for Clemens?
He's working on an apartment building on Catalina and 3rd.
What about Ryan?
Currently working at a housing development on Normandy and 1st Street.
Varley, where is he?
Beverly and Mariposa, currently working on a new housing development. Hey, Varley's a good guy. You can't harass all my people.
These guys have lockers.
Yes, they do, but my men have a right to some privacy. Don't you need a warrant or something?
Show him and keep quiet.
This is Los Angeles. Fuck warrants.
Look,
Here.
that's the latest thing.
Happy now?
Stick around, Mr. Rasik. Clemens is a fellow traveler.
I'm figuring this must have been an actual manifesto, since, you know, they wouldn't have gotten that text from, you know, one of the writer's imaginations. Probably just copied it out. Oh boy, that's a lot of manifestos.
Some light reading on the merciless capitalist machine.
Price 5 cents.
Ryan wants the world to be a better place, don't we all?
And that's just pliers.
Giving me anything to go on. The company went through thousands of these in the war. Still got eaten alive. Varley has a problem with bugs.
Some weird ass looking mosquito coils.
You know that a mosquito coil takes an hour to burn down, Rasik?
No, I didn't know that.
It's the favorite choice of ignition by arsonists. Gives them time to get away.
You're crazy. He probably lives near the canals in Venice. Mind if I leave you to it? I got work waiting.
Then why would he bring his mosquito coils to work?
3 birds. Clemens, Ryan, Varley. Where to, Phelps?
To the loading screen. That looks like the same back we've seen before. And the same back we've seen in some of those flashbacks and flash forwards, as it turns out. Alright, well, 3 guys to hunt down, might as well go just straight on down the list.
What a skunk. Walking out on his wife like that?
You drive. I need to go over the case notes.
Yeah, this desk gets really weird with the perspective shifts. Like, normally we follow Cole like a hawk. Like that little bit towards the end of the last mission, that was just one little exception. Just to prove that Earl was watching.
Biggs, LAPD. We want some answers, and we want them quick.
Okay, okay. What's this all about? Just tell me what you want.
You know Reginald Varley?
No? Can't say I do.
Well, you work with him.
Detroit PD is after Reginald Varley for murder. You want us to run you in for aiding and abetting, Clemens?
Whoa, 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 whoa. All I know about Varley is he gets kickbacks from some developer. Does their work first. Spreads it around if he can.
You're licensed and work for InstaHeat?
I contract for them. So what?
InstaHeat hires arsonists, does it?
I've worked as a fitter all my life. Put everything I had into that house. And my fucking mud shark of a wife gets awarded it in settlement. She's blowing spics 2 at a time while I'm at work. And she gets the house. Yeah, I burnt it all right. Set fire to that fucker and watched it burn to the ground. I did my time and I'd do it again.
Sorry about the rouse, Clemens. You did the right thing.
I gotta love that turnaround.
Do you know Matthew Ryan?
No. Don't know the name.
You and Ryan are 5th columnists.
And how do you figure that, wise guy? What proof do you have? Been following me to meetings?
No, but I have been rooting through your locker.
We found a pamphlet in your locker, Clemens. You can add your name to the register. HUAC might want to interview you.
That shit was from Ryan. He's always pushing that shit on people. Drives me nuts. He's got it in for the company.
All right, Clemens. You're off the hook for the moment.
Can I get back to work now?
Let's get out of here, Phelps. He ain't our guy. Varley's on the run. He might be packing heat. If he's wanted for murder, I say we take the doubt out of the equation and let him have it.
You nervous?
It's been a while.
You were in combat.
In 1917. You know, I never fired my weapon in the line of duty.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. I hope your piece is still serviceable, Herschel.
I may be old and out of practice, but I'm still a Marine, Phelps.
It would be better for our case if we could bring him in, Herschel.
How does Phelps know about Herschel's service history? That's the first I've heard of it.
LAPD, Varley! Stop or I'll shoot!
Well, luckily we got guns out for this one, so if I can just keep a bead on him...
Stop or I will shoot!
We'll just end this before it begins. You can see the seams in the sod.
Why did you run from us, Varley?
I'm gonna take a wild guess that you're the same Reginald Varley the Detroit police have an outstanding warrant on. How am I doing so far?
I need a lawyer before I talk to any of you.
Reginald Varley, you're under arrest for committing a series of arsons. You're also under arrest for murder. Detroit PD will be putting in a request for your extradition. Until then, your guest of the scene.
Arson? You can't hang that rap on me.
Be quiet. Be thankful we don't shoot you.
Are all the cops in this town crazy?
Take him away, officer.
Also, thanks for teleporting in, by the way. Very convenient.
You are listening to an American Century Broadcasting station.
Alright. One last guy to hunt down. And he's just down the block. Okay. And we're here. But yeah, that guy we just saw in the panning shot, that's the guy...
Are you Matthew Ryan?
Who's asking?
Detective Phelps and Biggs, Arson Squad.
Arson?
You heard the man.
Let's just put this stuff in the car and I'll be right with you.
Hold it, Ryan. I said...
Bitch.
Those are GI's backyards he's crashing through.
The damage is only cosmetic.
He's a one-man wrecking ball.
Move in! I'll take out the van.
He's only taking out sod rolls and some shitty fence.
He's going to kill those men.
They'll get out of the way.
Only if they hear him coming.
Close in, Phelps. We need to take Ryan down before he hurts somebody.
Well, I'm sorry, I just suddenly lost all forward momentum somehow. Alright, now we're catching back up with him.
Don't go to sleep on me. Get in close. Get in close and steer him off the tar.
He's got an arson-related assault charge and he's running.
Running don't mean nothing. We gotta get this guy in a room before we can get an angle on him.
This man has got to be stopped.
Okay, well, we stopped him. Nice timing.
Hands behind your head. Why did you run, Ryan?
I was scared.
You got a reason to be scared, Ryan?
Matthew Ryan, I'm arresting you on suspicion of committing a series of arsons.
We have 3 suspects. As much as I'd like it to be Chapman, I think it's one of the other 2 guys. Let's get to the station and close this case.
Well, that's assuming they have anything to do with the Suburban Redevelopment Fund.
You're behind the wheel.
Because, you know, there was that little suspicious bit in the beginning there where they arranged for those 2 people to win just when their houses burned down. If one of their kids didn't get sick, they would have survived. Everybody would have lived. And a couple of holdouts would have had their houses burned down and be forced to take the offer.
I have 2 suspects.
Phelps, you got nothing. Biggs, Ryan's waiting for you in interview 1. Varley's in 2.
Hey, Hopkins, you practicing your asshole routine again? Come on, Phelps.
Yeah, the bum took a swipe at me. Put him down with my sap.
I like how Higgs stands up for Cole. I mean, he doesn't want a partner, but he has a partner, and he's got to defend him, you know? Anyway, we're going to interview room 2 here first.
We have Matthew Ryan in custody, Varley. I think all we need to do is ask him about this, and he'll rat you out.
Fuck Ryan, that pinko bastard.
Have you ever worked on a place on Rosewood Avenue? Family by the name of Sawyer?
Maybe. I'm from out of town. I go where they send me. I don't do a lot of repairs, though. I'm flat out on new installations.
Why are you lying to me, Varley? If Suburban wants their new installations completed, why are you bothering with wrecks like the Sawyer house?
So I'm lying just because I can't remember if I was there or not? How can you prove that I was?
Well, you signed your name in for the past 3 years.
Your name is on the inside door of their water heater.
Okay. You got me there. Suburban, yeah, they wanted that guy out. Sawyer kept complaining about not being able to get his heater service, so they threw in a free service as a sweetener. I think he played him, though. Because he still wouldn't sell.
And then his house burnt down with him in it.
Word is, you're in the pocket of some property developer?
Never. I got principles.
How did Suburban put the squeeze on you? Did they find out about your record?
There's no way you can link me to Suburban. You're wasting your time.
I got this deposition from your co-worker here.
Clemens says you offered to cut him in on the kickbacks they were offering. I'll testify in court.
Suburban, they got real-time pressure on getting some of the big developments finished. There's some big date that they can't afford to miss. So yeah, I took their money, but so did a lot of guys, all right? Carpenters, electricians, plumbers. It's no big conspiracy.
Not on your level, maybe.
What would reversing the diaphragm of an Insta-Heat Model 70 do?
Yeah, I made that mistake before. You get a big bang when you turn the pilot back on.
So you didn't deliberately sabotage the water heater at the Sawyer house?
No, I did not. You out of your mind?
So, what are you hiding?
I don't believe you, Varley. I think Suburban wants homeowners who don't want to sell out of the way.
I think you're out of your mind. Where is the evidence that I have done anything to contribute to this fire, huh?
Well...
Arsonists use cigarettes and mosquito coils as time delay fuses. We found an open box of mosquito coils in your locker.
Whoa, hang on! Those things, they belong to Ryan, all right? He asked me to hold them because his locker's full of stupid pamphlets. I thought he used them for camping.
We're done for now.
So what happens?
You're either going back to Detroit to face a murder rap, or you're staying here to answer for these arsons.
Yeah, but you're going back to Detroit, actually. Because, you know, once again, we've got a pair of suspects. Only circumstantial evidence linking them to anything. And so, again, we're going to pick the most politically expedient option.
Save yourself some time and get this thing off your chest.
If that's your opening gambit, you better try again.
So you want to change the world, Ryan?
Yes, I do. So does every reasonable person.
And you're doing your part?
Yes, I am.
Does that include sabotaging water heaters to destroy a company?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
This is industrial sabotage, Ryan. It's all part of your campaign.
You're delusional, detective. What campaign?
Well, the one that's on your anarchist pamphlets, I guess.
Your locker is full of pamphlets. Clemens told us how you were always foisting them on people.
Sure. I spread the pamphlets. A guy has to do something. Insta-heat heaters break down every day. They're still peddling the same lousy design that they lifted from Hephaestus.
Insta-heat bought out Hephaestus?
Them, Vulcan, Pyro, and a bunch of other companies.
And you still work for them?
A guy has to work.
And the directors of the company. How do you feel about them these days?
You work it out.
You know how to reverse a diaphragm in the regulator valve of a Model 70 heater?
No, I don't.
Really?
If you know enough to do your job, you know enough to do that repair. You're lying, Ryan.
And how do you think you can prove that?
I've talked with your supervisor. He showed me how to do it.
Your boss at InstaHeat said that you've all been trained to do it. It's a common repair. Are you calling him a liar?
Okay, so I know how it's done. But what would be the point? You'd just end up with a gas leak and then a small fire when you turn the pilot back on.
And if you didn't reset the pilot and the gas spread, what was the cause of the fire in your own home, Ryan?
I won't tell you.
What can you tell me about the Suburban Redevelopment Fund?
Nothing.
Tell me the truth, Ryan. It's the only chance you've got. You're getting some kind of kickback from the fund.
So I'm an agitator for change, but I take kickbacks. How does that make any sense?
I just got you there.
It's nothing personal. I'm just doing my job. You understand that?
Not that he can't be a giant hypocrite, but...
I think Suburban is a front for your anarchist buddies. They're arranging for people to be out of town while you burn their houses down.
Suburban? What's that got to do with me? That's Farley's bilk. He's the one with the cozy agreement with those fascists.
You have a history of violence.
I have no such thing.
You're lying, Ryan.
And how exactly are you going to prove that?
With magical R&I lady, who cut your record in 2 seconds flat.
You were charged with attempted murder, Ryan.
It was a court case. No criminal liability was the verdict. They said that they couldn't have known that the faulty heater installation would cause a fire. All I know is I lost my whole family. And the company that was responsible got away with it. What would you do?
Which company?
Hephaestus Water Heater Company.
Matthew Ryan, I'm charging you with committing a series of arsons and for the murders of Hank Sawyer, Edwina Sawyer, Henry Sawyer, and Jessica Sawyer.
You're putting an innocent man away here. You hear me? I didn't set any fires. I didn't kill that family.
Phelps, what you did to your wife and kids was un-American.
My wife threw me out.
Did I ask for your opinion? You're here to listen to mine. What I was going to say, before I was interrupted, was you did a good job on the Stephen Sawyer case. We don't often get results in arson, so well done.
What about me? Do I get a little stamp by my hand or a lollipop or something?
What you get is another case. A bad one, unfortunately.
Yeah, and once again, if we chose the other guy, we would have only been able to get a 3-star rating instead of my standard 5. And once again, we're sending an innocent man to jail because that's fairly obvious. I don't think I need to explain that that is fairly obvious and that this is going to go a lot deeper before the end of the disc. Also, Flute Guy is really getting into this.
You're 2 blocks behind 1st and 2nd. We have more buildings to clear. You know our orders, Sergeant. There's barely a building left standing or not on fire in your zone, Cole. Is your sector full of Japs?
Questioning my command.
The captain doesn't want anyone falling behind.
Tell the captain we will join him when the job is done.
Why'd he send a sergeant?
Just give us the word, Sarge. We'll take care of him. He should be sectioned. That Jap lover's a fucking liability.
We're here to kill Japs, not our own people.
Star-crossed son of a bitch. No one wants to serve under him. He's bad fucking luck.
Can it? We have a job to do here. If I can live with it, you can too.
For today's film, I'm going to be dipping back into the well of lesser-known and quite formulaic noir films with equally formulaic names. The Big Heat. There is one thing that makes this film unique, however. It was directed by Fritz Lang, the same man who directed Metropolis and M. The story about the story. So, I've mentioned before that the Nazis killed the German film scene, but today I think I'll go into a bit more depth. Way back when motion pictures were just getting started, Hollywood was not at the center when it came to big-budget pictures with mass distribution and mass appeal. American filmmakers certainly flocked there because Los Angeles has just about the best weather for filming in the States, but other nations had their own contenders. This was particularly true back during the silent film era, since translation was as easy as switching out the intertitles. I mean, silent films were still recut constantly thanks to differing censorship laws and producers who are always second-guessing audiences, but still. Berlin, for instance, already had 16 movie theaters in 1905, and the Weimar Republic, which lasted from 1919 to 1933, was a golden age for German film. This is when the artistic movement called German Expressionism began, exemplified by movies like Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and Metropolis. These films were larger than life, exaggerated for effect, to appeal to the audience's emotions and to leave a lasting impression. In particular, the way German Expressionism played with lighting and shadows had a direct impact on what today we refer to as the film noir visual style. Unfortunately, when the Nazis took power in the early 30s, they killed the creative spark that was fueling the German film industry. That's not to say that every film was triumph of the will, but the movies that weren't were lighthearted, insubstantial, and avoided challenging the status quo in any way. After all, according to Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi minister of propaganda, light entertainment was how you placated the masses. Censorship went up, self-censorship went up, and just to be absolutely sure, the Nazis nationalized the industry by 1937. Of course, by then it was easy to take over all the production companies since the German film scene had greatly contracted. Actors and filmmakers of all stripes were fleeing Germany and German-controlled Europe throughout the decade, some because they were Jewish, others because they resented the new government restrictions. Still others were prevented from working thanks to the German version of the Hollywood blacklist that made America's look like a damn rose garden. Fritz Lang was a very particular case. See, he was raised Catholic, but his mother was Jewish by birth, and that was enough to get you in trouble in Nazi Germany. However, Goebbels was apparently a big fan of Lang's work, particularly Die Nibelungen and Metropolis, and that's despite the latter film's limited success back in the day. Perhaps he liked it because Lang's then-wife, Thea von Harbo, wrote the screenplay, and would go on to become a member of the Nazi Party herself. But because Goebbels liked Lang as a filmmaker, in 1933 he reportedly offered to make him the head of German film production. The way Lang tells it, he informed Goebbels about his Jewish heritage, and Goebbels' response was, "We decide who is Jewish in Germany." But despite that tempting offer, Lang left the country before the end of the year. After bouncing around in Europe for a while, Lang wound up settling in Hollywood, much like fellow expats like Peter Lorre, Billy Wilder, born Samuel Wilder in Austria-Hungary, Otto Preminger, and many more. Unfortunately, Fritz Lang and the studio system didn't really get along well. Lang's preference was for massive, grandiose films, but the studio system emphasized pumping out cheap films as fast as possible. He was also something of a control freak, so he probably wasn't fond of studio meddling either. Still, while Lang would never rise to the heights he achieved in Germany, he did put out a few good pictures. Early after arriving in America, he created movies like Fury and You Only Live Once. and during the war he was particularly pointed in his depiction of Nazi villains. Today's film, The Big Heat, came out in 1953, and although the plot is cliché from back to front by today's standards, it's important to remember that it crossed a lot of lines back in the day, and the words vicious and brutal come up a lot in the reviews and critiques of the film. The story. The film begins with a gun, specifically a man picking up a gun and shooting himself with it. A woman, who seems to be the man's wife, comes downstairs when she hears the noise, but she's remarkably calm as she picks up a note addressed to the district attorney with a police badge sitting next to it. After reading the note, she calls a man named Mike Lagana instead of the police. Lagana takes the call when the woman identifies herself as Tom Duncan's widow, and we see that Lagana is a very wealthy man. He tells Mrs. Duncan to call the police, and then he calls up Vince Stone. Stone's girlfriend Debbie gets the call, and she mentions that Stone is a politician as she leaves. Soon enough, the cops are crawling all over the Duncan home, and we meet Sergeant David Banyan from Homicide. He didn't know Duncan very well, since Duncan was in charge of the department's records bureau. The medical examiner finds evidence which shows that this is definitely a suicide, and Mrs. Duncan, who has carefully arranged herself to look distraught, says that it's because Tom was feeling pain, but refused to see any doctors. With the case apparently closed, we see Banyan at home with his wife, Katie, and his young daughter, Joyce. There's not much to say about this scene except that it's so saccharine that you just know something horrible is going to happen before the third act. Their dinner is interrupted, however, when the department calls and tells Banyan that a Lucy Chapman at the retreat has informed them that Tom Duncan didn't commit suicide. When Banyan gets to the tavern, Chapman leads him to a booth, and a remarkable number of people at the bar watch them go. Chapman tells Banyan that Duncan wasn't worried about his health, that he wasn't worried about much at all after his wife had agreed to divorce him. Chapman knows this because she's Duncan's lover, though she insists it wasn't that kind of relationship. They've been together for several months, ever since she met him at a nearby town of Lakeside where Duncan has a summer home. Banyan dismisses her story, figuring that she's just trying to shake down the department for some blackmail money. For her part, Chapman thinks that Banyan is trying to cover up the facts for the sake of the widow. Still, Banyan is at least curious enough to go back to Bertha Duncan and ask her about Chapman's allegations. Duncan gets particularly angry when Banyan brings up the divorce and denies that her husband ever wanted one. But she does say that Tom had a lot of lovers over the years. Banyan is understanding and sympathetic, but when he asks for a few details about the house in Lakeside, Bertha refuses to say anything and demands that he leave. The next morning, Banyan gets a report from the county office. Turns out Chapman was beaten, tortured with cigarette burns, and killed sometime after Banyan left. And although the coroner writes it off as just one more barfly who went home with the wrong guy, Banyan can't help but feel suspicious. When Banyan gets back to the department, Lieutenant Wilkes calls him into his office and tells him to stop bothering Duncan's widow, or else the men upstairs won't stop bothering him. Banyan tells him about Chapman's death, but Wilkes tells him to let the county police worry about it. However, Banyan refuses to stop at this point. He heads back to the retreat to interview the bartender, but the bartender has nothing to offer. As soon as Banyan leaves, though, the man heads into the phone booth and calls someone to report on Banyan's actions. But the detective was listening in, and he asked the bartender to come with him downtown. However, the barman responds with a few threats of his own, showing in the process that he knows way more about what's going on than he should. Banyan heads home for another excessively sweet scene, but it's interrupted when someone calls the house and starts making death threats, since someone big is getting annoyed. But Banyan is unimpressed, and he decides to head straight to the top. Mike Lagana. Lagana is friendly enough at first, talking about his daughter's birthday and his mother's death, but when Banyan mentions that Lucy Chapman was subjected to an old-fashioned prohibition-style killing, Lagana gets angry and says he doesn't like it when someone tracks dirt into his home. Banyan responds by insulting him and saying Lagana built his house out of 20 years of corruption. And when Lagana calls in his bodyguard, Banyan kicks his ass for good measure. He then leaves on his own. The next day, Lieutenant Wilkes is chewing Banyan out for his actions once again. Banyan doesn't say anything to Wilkes' face, but back at home, he complains to his wife that Wilkes is a coward who's too afraid for his pension to take a stand. Banyan then puts his daughter to bed while his wife takes the car to pick up the babysitter. And that's when the car blows up, killing his wife instantly. After the funeral, the police commissioner, Higgins, tries to reassure Banyan that they're on the case, but Banyan is not impressed, and he insinuates that the commissioner gets his marching orders from Mike Lagana. Higgins puts Banyan on suspension and does the usual give me your badge and gun bit, but this time it's a little different. Banyan owns his gun, and he promises not to use it until he finds the people who murdered his wife. We then spend a moment in Banyan's now emptied out home as a fellow officer stops by to hand him a list of places to investigate and to advise him not to go on a hate-fueled rampage. We now cut over to Vince and Debbie, and we learn that Debbie is a trophy girlfriend who doesn't care for Vince so much as she cares for shopping with his money. Lagana stops by and chews out both Vince and his buddy Larry Gordon, who is the man responsible for both Chapman's death and the car bomb. He also mentions that they're paying Mrs. Duncan $500 a week to keep her husband's letter in a safety deposit box. Vince then suggests that they try to get rid of Banyan again, but Lagana disagrees. Doing so now would get too much attention, and attention is the last thing Lagana wants with an election coming up. Banyan has been out investigating for some time when he comes across Victory Auto Wreck. He asks the man in charge for information, he cajoles, and he threatens, but the man refuses to say anything since he's too scared of the mob to spill the beans. However, it turns out his assistant, an old woman named Selma Parker, is a bit more brave, and she sneaks off to tell Banyan about a strange visitor who called a man named Larry at the retreat. Banyan visits his sister's apartment, which is where his daughter is staying, and he asks his brother-in-law Al to call the retreat and hopefully find out who Larry is. Unfortunately, the call doesn't come to anything, but Banyan does notice Vince hurting a girl by burning her hand with his cigar. For Banyan, this is just a bit too reminiscent of the cigarette burns found on Chapman's body, and he intimidates Vince into leaving. Debbie is also there, and she's interested enough to chase after Banyan on the street. Banyan decides to invite her to his hotel room since she might know something useful, and she decides to go with him since Vince left her at the bar. In his room, Debbie talks about herself for a while. Apparently, Vince is a violent man, but she thinks it's worth it since most of the time she gets to have some expensive fun. She also doesn't care how Vince gets his money. She's been poor before, and she doesn't want to go back to that. Debbie doesn't tell Banyan anything he wants to know, however, and when she starts asking about whether he's been in love, he tells her to leave. Debbie gets back to Vince's place where he's playing cards with Commissioner Higgins and a few other politicians. Debbie acts like she didn't go see Banyan, but unfortunately she was seen getting into the cab with him, and Vince gets violent. When she continues to say she didn't talk to Banyan, Vince grabs a pot of boiling coffee and throws it on her face. The commissioner takes her to the hospital so they won't have to make any police reports, and Vince calls Lagana to arrange for Debbie's permanent disappearance. However, late that night, Debbie turns up at Banyan's room. She ran out of the hospital because she knew what would come next, and now she's willing to say everything she knows, including Larry Gordon's full name and address. The next morning, the old woman from earlier goes to Gordon's apartment, apparently looking for a Mrs. Davenport, but actually there to confirm that Gordon's home and to put him off his guard. When Gordon answers the door a second time, Banyan starts by punching him in the face, moves on to choking him, and soon enough, Larry tells him everything. He killed and dumped Chapman's body after Vince finished torturing her. He arranged for the car bomb, and he knows that Duncan was on the take and his widow probably has something on the organization. For his part, Banyan promises to let Larry live, but also to spread the word that Larry talked. Later, Vince and Lagana discuss how they shot Larry on his way to the airport, and Vince argues again that they need to get rid of Banyan. However, Lagana has another idea. Take something Banyan values more than his own life, and he'll keep quiet. It's obvious enough that they're talking about his daughter, but their talk is interrupted by Bertha Duncan, who's panicking since Banyan's at her door and refusing to go away. Lagana tells her to stall him, so she lets him in and plays innocent at first, but eventually she drops the act. Banyan suggests that if anything happens to her, the evidence will come out, since that's the smart way to handle things. But there's one wrinkle in her plan. Banyan wants the evidence to come out, and it'll be all too easy to end her himself. They get interrupted by a pair of police officers, however, and so Banyan leaves. Back at the hotel, Banyan heads to Debbie's room with a meal. She mentions that she's not used to sitting around and thinking. She asks Banyan about his wife, but he gives her a police description and otherwise keeps quiet. Then, as he's talking about how Mrs. Duncan's death could bring the whole syndicate crashing down, he gets a call from his sister. She just found out that the police detail that's guarding their home won't be coming today. So, Banyan drops off the revolver he grabbed from Larry and runs out. When he gets to his sister's apartment, Banyan gets held up by a big guy in a suit. They start fighting in the hallway, but then Al comes out and breaks up the fight. Turns out, Al brought in 4 of his war buddies to guard the place. As Banyan leaves, he meets Wilkes and another homicide detective at the front door. Turns out they're willing to stick their necks out for the kid, too. That evening, Debbie goes to Duncan's house. She compliments the decor and comments on how they're both wearing mink coats. And then she shoots Duncan 3 times. Banyan, meanwhile, has tailed Vince back to his place, but we find out Debbie got in first when she throws boiling coffee in Vince's face. She tears off her bandage so Vince and the audience can get a good look at what I'm sure were top-notch effects 60 years ago. She then brags about killing Bertha Duncan, and Vince, rather unwisely, pulls his gun out and shoots her twice. It's at this point that Banyan comes in, and Vince starts shooting at him too. Banyan trades shots and calls the police, and while he almost decides to shoot Vince even after the man's gun runs out of bullets, he decides against it at the very last second. As the police come and take Vince away, Banyan and Debbie trade a few final words. Banyan finally talks about what his wife was like. As the movie ends, Lagana and Stone get indicted by Duncan's confession, and Sergeant Banyan heads back out on another case. The analysis. The Big Heat is an action movie that predates action movies. Oh, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of war movies and cowboy westerns and gangster flicks, swashbuckling adventures and suspenseful spy thrillers, but as far as the gritty urban action movie goes, with its morally questionable hero going on a rampage of revenge, you saw inklings of that in noir dramas, especially noir dramas like this one, but the true action movie would have to wait for the late 60s and early 70s to fully come into its own. One of the biggest reasons it didn't catch on earlier, beyond the need for trained stunt doubles and a big effects budget, was, once again, the Hollywood Production Code. One of the most important points in that code, we're talking underlined twice here, was that nobody could kill another person and get away with it, regardless of motive or circumstances. The only exceptions were officers of the law and soldiers, and even then it was only while they were acting in an official capacity. Self-defense was sometimes acceptable, but to put it briefly, if a character's actions would lead to a lengthy court case, the production office would demand that it either be removed or that the character pay for his or her actions. That's why Debbie takes over the revenge plot towards the end of The Big Heat. she performs the remorseless actions, like killing a defenseless old woman, or throwing coffee in Vince Stone's face. In exchange, she gets shot down. She does it so that the hero can stay as immaculate as the code demands. And when he could kill Vince, and probably get away with it, he chooses not to. But in future action movies like Dirty Harry, Commando, and Die Hard, the hero doesn't always get away with clean hands. And as it turns out, the movie-going public doesn't really mind that much. Thanks for joining me again for today's film review, and I hope you'll join me next time for a film about fading stars, delusions of grandeur, and a man who always wanted a pool.